Good afternoon, everyone. Certainly pleased to be joined here today by Minister Osborne, Minister Crocker, Minister Howell, and Dr. Will Morris, who's Chief of Orthopedic Surgery for Eastern Health, to announce an exciting new initiative that is in line and in keeping with your government's approach to thinking outside the box and utilizing all the tools necessary to deliver healthcare in a timely fashion across our province. We're excited today to announce the expansion of total hip and knee replacements in Carbonear and St. Anthony. So what this will mean for people at home is it'll mean that we have increased availability throughout the province. So right now, one of the issues restricting capacity is the infrastructure, frankly, the availability of operating rooms. Well, we know that we have infrastructure that's being underutilized. Will require little investment to get it up to speed, but then we can utilize that to ensure that we are exercising the full capacity of the infrastructure to allow the delivery of healthcare services. For example, in Carbonear, a small investment will allow total joint replacements to be done for people, not just of the region, but of any region, frankly, that is exercised by Eastern Health and Dr. Moores and his team. What that'll allow for is up to an extra 160 joint replacements per year. It's 160 patients getting the timely care that they need that are currently at a wait list. Same in St. Anthony. Right now in St. Anthony, total hip and knee replacement is being done, but it's not being done to the full capacity that the hospital has to potentially offer it. So we need to make sure that we're utilizing the full capacity of the hospital. That's why once a month we'll be sending a team of surgeons and other physicians to St. Anthony to exercise the full capacity of that hospital. That will allow for 140 extra patients per year off the total hip and total knee replacement potentially off that list. So this is about thinking outside the box. It's about using different models. It's about recognizing that we have infrastructure that's being slightly underutilized and with a little investment can provide opportunities for people to come off this long wait list. One of the reasons that we picked hip and knee replacements, of course, is it's a well-measured wait list, and Eastern Health in particular has done an incredible job of maximizing that wait list and finding efficiencies within the wait list itself, leading the country in some respects to have a collaborative wait list. So there is an option for patients who are on that wait list to go to a communal wait list as opposed to one surgeon versus another so that they can have access to the next surgeon available. That's a trend across the country. It's one that's already been exercised here. So we're thinking within the box, utilizing all the tools, but then thinking outside the box to ensure that we're utilizing all the capacity that's around the province. I want to thank Minister Osborne for his leadership on this, but equally thank Dr. Moores and the team at Eastern Health for their ability to come up with creative solutions to what is an ongoing issue for people sitting at home in pain. And I can tell you, having done that myself, having to have to cancel patients, having to have to tell them after you tell them they need a knee or hip replacement that it's going to be a year to two, that is troubling news to deliver, and that's why we're taking this initiative today. So with that, for more clinical details, if you will, and the impact that it'll have on patients' lives, I'm happy to bring Dr. Will Morris to the mic. Dr. Morris?
Thank you. So as Premier Fury stated, I'm the divisional head of orthopedics here at Eastern. And I do welcome these two announcements. Both have been discussed behind the scenes now for quite some time. I'm very happy that we're all on the same page here. As Dr. Fury had stated, this adds capacity to the provincial ability to provide orthopedic care. It also allows it, in some instances, to provide it closer to patients' homes, but overall the impact is really a provincial one. There are really only three main sites plus one surgeon in St. Anthony that are currently providing joint replacement care. It is a large volume of patients and a significant portion of orthopedic care. It's not all encompassing because there's a significant amount to orthopedics besides joints, but it is certainly the most easily measured metric, and any addition of what can amount between the two sites of up to 300 patients. That's almost a 30% increase in what we are normally producing here at Eastern Health. So that is very welcome with the backlog and the perceived and well-documented increase in demand as we go forward and our population ages.
Thanks, Will. I'm happy to open it up to questions for myself, the Minister, or Dr. Moores. Anyone impacted?
Can you tell us a little more about this traveling team that's going to be going around and how many people are involved?
Yeah, sure. So the traveling team will go to St. Anthony in particular. As we've already suggested, we have a great orthopedic surgeon working in St. Anthony now, but there is capacity to deliver more care to the people of the region in particular, so that they don't have to travel, for example, to St. John's or one of the other healthcare facilities to get their knee or hip replaced. So what we'll be doing is sending a team of surgeons, anesthesiologists if required, and support staff if required to the site. So instead of having them come into St. John's, we're sending the expertise to them, and that will allow a high throughput, an efficient, effective team to deliver high quality care in their own community. So the composition and the numbers of the team, I'm sure, will change as the capacity increases, but you can look at a composition of a team that involves a multitude of healthcare professionals, including, of course, the surgeons, support staff, and anesthesiologists if required. Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the nice thing about, I mean, it's unfortunate that there's a large wait list for joint replacements, but it is an easy metric to measure. And that's why Kaihai, for example, uses it as one of their targets. So this is why we started with this one. It's not a nebulous wait list, it's a real wait list. It's one that you can track and follow and see if you're actually having an impact. So when you introduce a new initiative, it's always nice to be able to measure the effect it's having, and on a wait list like joint replacements, it's an easy one to follow. Oh, it's an incredible, I mean, I can turn it over to Dr. Morris, but it's an incredible improvement on life. In fact, total hip replacement has been, it's really just a total hip replacement, and cataracts have had the biggest return on the value of someone's life in terms of returning them to activity, returning them to work. You can be incredibly crippled with an arthritic hip. You have to lose, you could lose your employment opportunity, never mind your professional and personal satisfaction level. And the gift to be able to give that back through a joint replacement, it doesn't only mean a lot to the patient in terms of relieving their pain and allowing them to reach the personal goals, but allows them to return to work often. So it is well measured as one of the most effective surgeries ever developed in the history of humankind. Dr. Morris?
So it's a bit of a difficult question to answer. It depends. Different surgeons do have different wait lists. It's not a completely all-encompassing number. Mine particularly is quite long, but we, as Dr. Fury pointed out, we are one of the leading provinces in here, particularly at Eastern Health, of developing a communal wait list, which does allow patients to get in at the earliest access point. But the wait list right now, the surgical backlog of arthroplasties is somewhere in the 1,700 to 1,900 range. And again, it varies a little bit based on patients' medical fitness for surgery, and that number fluctuates a bit, but it's somewhere in that range.
I'll just add one comment on that.
Sure.
The other thing that we can't forget is this about planning for the future, which is why the St. Clair's announcement was important as well. When I started training, joint replacements were really only offered in patients over the age of 70 almost. And now that the indications, as technology has improved, has expanded the indications for total hip and total knee replacements, we can only think and imagine that that's going to continue. So this procedure will continue to be offered to more and more people. Number one, as the demographics of our province change, but number two, as the technology changes in the development of these particular surgical interventions. Yeah, I mean, you have to plan for all things, and we're of course addressing the emergency rooms as best we can. But when you do a surgery, there's always the possibility of a complication. That has to be considered in the overall kind of systems development, and it's one that's been contemplated. But you can't not do it because there could be a complication. That's an individual patient decision, of course, to make. But I would argue that as soon as the patient, all of that cost is assumed to the system as soon as the patient comes in and agrees to a hip replacement. Doesn't matter if it's done today, tomorrow, 2 years from now. The cost to the system is assumed once the surgeon and the patient agree that this is the best treatment forward. So we're trying to do it in a more timely fashion. So that cost is already in the system, if you will, the complication, because they've already agreed to the surgery. The surgery is going to be done. This is just about enhancing the availability of the surgical intervention. Sure, yeah, whoever, yeah. Depends on the question, yeah.
Well, I just wanted to know, like, I focused on it today, but there's been some amendments, and I just want to know how that came down.
Sure, I can comment on a real high level. I mean, the bill was amended. It's a historic bill that got unanimous consent with respect to one provincial health authority. There were some amendments in order to achieve that, but the overall theme and spirit of the bill is the same, as one health authority to govern the province, and the structure of which was dictated in the bill. There was some quality council issues that were dealt with through amendments, and I'm happy to pass that over to the minister. Yep.
Yep. So the amendment, you mean? Okay, so the Quality Council, you know, the opposition members, including the independent members, their concern was with the Quality Council and, you know, how the Quality Council would be appointed and who the Quality Council would report to. They were okay with the rest of the bill. The rest of the bill had passed, so the Quality Council we are sending to an all-party committee of the House to determine those indicators, how it's appointed, who it reports to. Well, that was, yeah, so that was predetermined with the Information and Privacy Commissioner. They are not out of the bill, basically on hold. We did an amendment so that they didn't move forward last night, but the Information and Privacy Commissioner has recognized the importance of that aspect of the bill. The department, government recognize the importance of that aspect of the bill, but the Privacy Commissioner wanted to have some more time to look at privacy implications to make sure we get it right.
So that was the teaching section on social services and health.
That's correct.
And so they are like amended, they're not taken out of the bill, they haven't been passed along with the bill. Pretty much.
Yep, so we're putting those sections on hold until we do an additional piece of work with the Privacy Commissioner, and then we'll move forward with those.
Okay, and they're not going to be studied by this bill, right?
No, that's correct.
Okay. Glad I clarified that. Do you feel like the bill, I guess, you know, that you kind of agreed that there was like an oversight, not sitting with the Privacy Commissioner, obviously, but so much of last night. Do you feel like the bill is better, like will be better in the future with kind of cooperation with like the Privacy Commissioner or the opposition?
Well, you know, obviously we wanted to ensure the Privacy Commissioner was comfortable with the bill. You know, from Executive Council to Justice and Public Safety to officials in our department, Dr. Parfrey, who had input into the bill, Dave Diamond, who had input into the bill. This was a solid bill, a good piece of legislation, but we did work to satisfy the privacy concerns with the Privacy Commissioner and the concerns of the opposition members last night.
So right now, when is it in force now? Is it royal assent?
So it's received third reading. The next step is royal assent, and that will happen in the coming days.
And is the committee that will be doing the discussions like in the next few weeks, like after the break, when
So we didn't set a time on that last night. We will work with all sides of the House to have the committee put in place and start reviewing the Quality Council.
Earlier today, NAME sent out a press release about what they call a critical shortage of radiation therapists. Radiation therapists actually leave the province. Is this something that the province or the department is working on? And so how?
We've put measures in place. We recognize the importance of radiation therapy for cancer patients. We are short-staffed in that area at the moment. Prior to that, we were getting radiation therapy for patients on average within 28 days, meeting both provincial and national benchmarks. But because of the shortage, we've in cooperation with Princess Margaret Hospital in Toronto, patients will be sent at no cost. The province will cover the costs to ensure that they get the treatment in the time that's required, and you know, that those patients are receiving the treatments necessary.
So is it, you say they'll get it in the time required, does that mean there have been no delays so far in treatment?
Well, you know, working with Princess Margaret Hospital, we will ensure that the treatments are done as quickly and efficiently as possible. We recognize the need for these treatments, and we recognize the importance of the treatment. So that is the reason we've reached out to Princess Margaret Hospital, put the plan in place where they will accept our patients so that we continue to strive and meet the benchmarks.
One of the big things when people are going through that situation, that terrible situation, is having support. To go through it alone would be fairly terrible. Is there any funds in place, I guess, or any initiatives in place to help family members as well, keeping on cancer or radiation?
We can certainly look at that as well. I know that we put in place the plan to ensure that patients would not be out of pocket. I mean, if there's a support required for those patients, we can certainly look at that.
And there's also supposed to be a radiation suite, I believe, in Corner Brook. One of the things that Terry Oprah mentioned was, if we're understaffed already, how are we going to staff the radiation suite over there? Do you have any plans in place to recruit?
Absolutely. This is a vital area of healthcare. We are recruiting. I will preface that by saying that every province in Canada, globally, there's a shortage of healthcare professionals, but we are leaving no stone unturned to recruit those specialists.
Do you go, I believe that one of the only places in Canada and I could be wrong, but this is what Jerry Earl mentioned to me, that Toronto is kind of one of the only places that trains radiation therapists. Do we have anything set up, do we have any relationships with the school there or anything like that?
And we do, and recruitment, we can look at outside the country as well in terms of recruitment. We passed the Medical Act to allow us a better opportunity to recruit from outside of Canada as well.
We're happy to work with, these are very specialized jobs, of course. They're not, they're not a dime a dozen. They're very specialized expertise. We recognize the value they bring, not just in the treatment of the particular cancer, but the value to the patient and to the family, the value that they bring. So we're happy to have discussions with educational opportunities and the union, frankly, to help facilitate the right number of recruits, the right number of upskilling, because oftentimes it's somebody who comes from another allied health professional or close adjacent to radiation or oncology delivery that comes to upskill for that job, that particular job, and we're happy to have those discussions to help facilitate the right number of radiation specialists for the province. Absolutely. I mean, it's incumbent in what we should be doing. Yeah.
And you mentioned as well that there is possibly one unit closed at the moment because of the shortages.
You can comment on the operational aspects of it.
There is, yeah. So we have 4 units. We're down a unit at the moment, but we are looking to recruit to fill that position.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I think you've noticed this fall, and it's been celebrated and recognized in other jurisdictions around the world, in media outlets in other places like Sweden, as I believe, that we introduced a targeted universal basic income, or a targeted basic income, if you will, for children coming out of care. So right now, it's the direction of this government to act on that pilot. We've already announced it, so that people coming out of care aren't just getting a pat on the back and saying good luck in the world. We're going to give them a recognized basic income, which is a portion of the universal basic income, of course, because universal means everybody. We think it should be targeted. And if you look at the economic analysis around the world and some of the social studies that have been done, probably a targeted basic income is where it's best applied, although people use the word universal. It's more likely targeted. So targeted to children coming out of care, targeted to people with disabilities, targeted to seniors. This is the conversation that we've started, but not only have we started this conversation, we've acted with the children coming out of care already. And so we'll reevaluate this pilot and look at ways we can expand it. We think that it's an important conversation. It's an important conversation to address poverty, but it's also an important conversation to address other things we're talking about here today, like the social determinants of health. You know, how much your economic status, your fiscal status, your financial status in life is probably the number one predictor of how you're going to do from a health outcome. So, you know, these are all conversations that are interwoven, but we've shown the initiative and taken the extra step by actually acting on it with respect to children coming out of care. Well, this is a conversation that's live, obviously, and those are ongoing discussions. But looking at other instruments like like a basic income for specific sections of society is something that we're certainly looking at. And given the inflationary pressures, we're certainly looking at what the right outside of the basic income, you know, for those who wouldn't apply, what the right cost adjustment should be moving forward. Of course, we've implemented other tools, whether that's through the income supplement or relief on home heat or other instruments to help ensure that those people are also looked after. But it's certainly a priority of our government, as it should be for any government, to look at after the most vulnerable in society. So we recognize that that's a problem. Food security is an issue here for the province, there's no question. And we are working very hard to increase the security of food supply from a provincial level, but also from an individual level. I think Minister Bragg has said that we've gone from 10 to 20% in a short period of time. I may be off a little bit, just in the last 2 or 3 years with respect to security on the island. But we also recognize that, you know, that there's an individual component to that, a family component to that, and that's why we're looking at the programs that we already have for those under that income level, if you will, with respect to different supports in place, different financial programs and instruments that have been provided. But we're always continuing to look beyond what's been the norm to date and for innovative ways to deal with poverty reduction in the province. Any others? Yeah.
The announcement today is certainly a good news piece for the district of St. Barb Lands-Meadows. The capacity to do orthopedic surgery has existed in St. Anthony before, as mentioned, but this will enhance that and make the service available more frequently and to more people. So anytime you can get better healthcare services in the region, it's a welcomed announcement for us. And having worked on that side of things and being part of a team that delivered orthopedic surgery in St. Anthony, I understand what goes on behind the scenes and how much work is required to make that happen. So I'm very appreciative of the team that will be contributing to the wellness of the people of St. Barb Lands-Meadows.
Likewise, Minister Howell, this a little different in Carbonear, obviously, because Carbonear is so well positioned with its adjacency to St. John's, an hour and 10 minutes away. I think something we've seen for quite some time now has been some people with the ability to travel from the Northeast Avalon to Carbonear. I think this just goes to solidify the role that Carbonear General Hospital can play in the healthcare system going forward when it comes to Northeast Avalon. We know, I think, with the new St. Clair's facility or replacement of St. Clair's, you know, population growth of 20 to 25%, you know, over the last few decades. And you know, if you look at the population trends, Carbonear is very well positioned, and I'm extremely happy to see the initiative to expand these surgeries outside in the Carbonear, because Carbonear certainly has a significant role to play in the healthcare system, I think, on the Northeast Avalon and the Avalon Peninsula. Thank you.
One of the things
I'm not sure of what you're talking about. I can certainly look into that, but I'm not aware of what you're speaking of.
Okay, yeah, no, it was just Daryl mentioned from the commission, he believed there used to be an initiative to recruit, but perhaps there's.
If there was, we'll certainly have a look and look at it, reinvigorating it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in my role as government house leader, what you would have seen yesterday is we would have given notice on, I think, 2, maybe 3 bills. That's typical. We'll always do that at the end of one sitting, so that when we come back for the spring sitting, that we have legislation on the agenda to get us up and running right away. No, absolutely. What you would have seen yesterday were preparations for the spring sitting.